The National Endowment for Democracy, NED, has become the latest casualty in US President Donald Trump's war on the foreign policy blob, following an order from the Department of Government Efficiency to the Treasury. Now, for those who don't know, NED was formed in 1983, having been spun out directly from the CIA as an independent political cutout, ostensibly for the purpose of promoting democracy around the world, regime change. While some are familiar with the activities of NED and its sister organizations like USAID and the State Department in pushing so-called color revolutions in Ukraine and in Bolivia and in Hong Kong, what many don't realize is that NED has been actively engaged right here in Africa. Information from WikiLeaks shows that during the so-called Arab Spring in 2011, organizations like Egypt's April 6 Youth Movement and the Libyan Transparency Association received training and funding from NED to stage anti-government protests and demonstrations, which ultimately led to the removal of Hosni Mubarak and Muammar Gaddafi from power. And the subsequent destruction of Libya as a functioning state, the 7,000 NATO bombing sorties in 9 months, which destroyed all of Libya's infrastructure, the total destabilization of the Sahel due to arms flooding in from Libyan army stockpiles, and hundreds of thousands of dead people in Nigeria and across West Africa. But footnotes. More recently, in 2015, NED supported a successful US-backed regime change operation in Nigeria. According to NED's website, it funded over 30 civil society organizations in 2015 that were involved in voter education, voter registration, election observation, and demanding the impartiality of the Electoral Commission. This unprecedented merger of American information warfare, weaponization of civil society spaces, and direct political interference from US President Barack Obama later led Goodluck Jonathan to say this.
The level of interference by Obama's government was very overwhelming. If a foreign country interferes with our own elections, we should mention it.
This regime change operation ultimately culminated in the victory of Muhammadu Buhari, who then went on to order the murder of unarmed civilian protesters at least 2 times in just 5 years of his presidency. The National Endowment for Democracy, unsurprisingly, had absolutely nothing to say about these decidedly undemocratic developments because, again, footnotes. Like USAID and other sister organizations in the American foreign policy establishment, the stated purpose of NED and its actual activities on the ground often have very little to do with each other. As the Haitians will tell you, the more influential the National Endowment for Democracy is in your country, the greater the possibility that something very undemocratic is about to happen in your country.